On October 6th, we have a full moon in the sign of Aries that is powerful. It has an energy that may help us step more fully into our own authority and autonomy. I say this because Mars rules the full moon because it's in Aries and Mars rules Aries, and Mars is in a good position this month in Scorpio, its own sign. I also say that because of the tarot card, the Three of Wands, that's associated with this full moon. And on top of that, we have some nice energy in the background with the two more positive planets, Jupiter and Venus, connecting to each other, as well as Jupiter connecting to this lunation itself. So there's a lot to talk about. If you enjoy the video, do like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel. It's a Jupiter year for me. Jupiter is about growth. Jupiter is also about teaching. So you're going to see in my videos, I've gotten more and more in a position where I'm trying to break down the basics for folks as I do more talks and teach at the local astrology meetup. I'm finding it's really important to break things down in a logical manner so people can follow because astrology is so complex. And my philosophy is that astrology is not about listening to somebody else give you the information, right? It's about coming to know the planets themselves, your own chart, so that you can use it as a tool for self-reflection. So, anyway, that's one of the reasons I like to teach the basics. I'm going to bring up a whiteboard that's going to help you see the meaning of what I'm talking about. Again, just to teach you step by step a little bit more about where I get the information that I'm talking about. So, first of all, we start with just the fact this is a full moon. A full moon happens about 2 weeks after a new moon. So, in my last video, I talked about the solar eclipse, which is kind of a new moon, but it's a moment when the sun appears to disappear from the sky. It's got a quality of karmic correction in eclipse. And the last new moon happened at about 29 degrees of Virgo. And so what happens is we have the new moon where a seed is planted, and then the full moon is when the moon slowly moves around the chart or in the sky and ends up opposing the sun. When we have a full moon, of course, the moon is fully illuminated. So it's this moment of insight, of information coming to us out of that new moon moment. The seed was planted. We didn't know what it was about at that eclipse or the last lunation. And then at the full moon, we gain some clarity, perhaps, around what we're learning, around what the new understanding is for that particular cycle of energy. So, full moon is when the moon is opposite the sun. Here we see it's going to be at 14 degrees Aries on October 6th. And so we're looking at energy in this full moon chart that has a quality. I'm just bringing up what Aries is all about. It's a full moon in Aries. So, what might that mean? Well, Aries is a fire sign, meaning it has to do with, fire is about it wants to spread and inspire and light our path. It has a spontaneity to it. Fire wants to be free. So that's some of the energy of this full moon. It's ruled by Mars, the god of war, but also can represent this sense of courage and, of course, aggression. There's all kinds of energies. Any planet is going to have a range of energies associated with it. Mars is a planet that can be about cutting, about separating, about protecting, about having courage in the face of someone maybe attacking us, for example. And Aries is a cardinal sign. So it likes to start things. It likes to initiate things. It's at the equinox. Cardinal signs always happen at these turning points when there's a new beginning. So it can have to do with new beginnings. And if we put that all together, you could just say a full moon in Aries is going to be a moment where perhaps we are going to be brave. We're going to initiate something. We're going to have a fiery energy about us. Something is going to come home to us because it's the full moon, some new insight about our warrior capacity. And then when we look at the tarot card that's associated with the full moon, it fleshes it out a little bit more because every 10 degrees of the zodiac has a tarot card associated with it. The tarot card associated with the middle 10 degrees of Aries, with where this full moon happens, is the Three of Wands. And just looking at that card, we can see someone who's looking out, they're standing their ground. There's an openness to the number three, being centered in oneself and having a quality of containing or allowing oneself to be inspired by that fiery energy. I say that in part because we can compare the Three of Wands with the card before it, which is the Two of Wands. So the first 10 degrees of Aries is ruled by Mars and Mars in the Decan system. And it's this card, the Two of Wands. And here we have Alexander the Great ready to conquer the world. So the beginning of Aries, the very first of the signs of the zodiac, is all about breaking into the world and wanting to establish ourselves, right? The second 10 degrees where this full moon is about I'm here, I matter. It's ruled by the sun and the sun under the decanic system. If we think about the sun is I've said this many times in my videos, but I think it's really important to understand all the other planets revolve around the sun. The sun is this fire, it's this centering energy for all of us. And so, if we think about this decan having a really sun influenced energy, and we look at this card, the Three of Wands that's associated with it, we can get this sense once again that this full moon might be about standing in our own light. Sun is about being the king and queen of our own dominion. It is kind of the quality of this second decan of Aries. And then if we move on to look at the chart itself, we get more energy or a confirmation that this full moon may be about standing in who we are. Because, first of all, we see that Mars in Scorpio is ruling the full moon. And Mars rules Scorpio. So Mars rules Scorpio and it also rules Aries. I realize I should bring my pen out maybe. So Mars rules Scorpio and it rules Aries. They're always going to have a connection. Mars is in its own sign this month, so it's got extra power, right? Um, and Scorpio, I'm a Scorpio rising. Scorpio is about really digging deep into the chthonic energy of connecting. If we have spirit that comes and enters, you could say, from the crown chakra, when we're talking about Scorpio, that's more ground, that's more Kali energy, the goddess Kali. That's more like the Kundalini energy of life. Scorpio grapples with life and death questions in this really deep way, is about transformation, about being worked over. So we have a powerful Mars encouraging us through being in our own grounded space to occupy space, to be our authentic selves, to have authority, right? Because of that second decan of Aries. So that is the energy of this particular full moon. So when I take it and I connect it with that last new moon, which was the seed for this full moon, I see the idea that we may have gotten some insight. It may have been difficult because eclipses can bring difficult, breaking open kind of energy that force us to let go of old ideas. And now when we get to the fruition, whatever we may have learned at that at the eclipse that happened at the new moon, now it's coming to fruition. Maybe it's supporting us in being more confident in who we are. Aries can have a quality of confidence and being centered in oneself as well. And then the last thing I would say about this chart, because now after this, I'm going to talk about what area of your life it might affect. We'll show another chart about that so you can take the information from this video and reflect on it for yourself to see if how this energy may play out. Anyway, but first, the last thing I want to point out is that Jupiter and Venus, Jupiter, again, let me see if I can quickly change the color of the pen and make it a little, there we go, it can highlight. So I want to come over here and show you Jupiter is in Cancer, and Jupiter's exalted in Cancer. That's why you see a star there. I did a video on exaltation. I'll drop a link. Basically means Jupiter does really well there. He's held on high. And Jupiter is connected to Venus in this chart. Venus is the other benefic. They're the two most positive planets in the sky. They're in a really nice sextile, providing some sweetness to this energy. So this feels like a nice full moon for us. Then on top of that, the moon in the chart is going to be applying to Jupiter. That's the next contact the moon makes after it has the full moon is with that planet Jupiter. So this also brings some good energy. And the moon rules Jupiter because Jupiter is in the moon sign Cancer. That's kind of advanced ideas, but I want to throw that in for folks who know a little bit more about astrology. And I'll also drop a link to my video on rulership or domicile, which might be helpful for folks. I'm doing a series at the Twin Cities Astrology Meetup around planetary dignity. So the last thing I want to show y'all is this is a great little slide that I created for some of my classes to help people understand the meaning of the different houses in their chart, because that's how you get a feel for what topic areas of your life might be affected by this full moon. So we have 12 houses with 12 different topic ideas here. First house is about self, body, character, appearance. Seventh is relationships, one-on-one connections. It can be marriage. Fourth, home, family, ancestry, etc. 10th, what we do out in the world, our career, etc. And you have all that information here. So if you know your rising sign, and you can then, I've given you the information about what house in your chart is going to be affected by this full moon, where it will fall. Excuse me. If you're an Aries rising, Aries is going to be in your first house. And that means the full moon is going to bring something to light and allow you to perhaps step into your own authority and power around who you are. If you're a Taurus rising, it's going to fall in your 12th house. And the 12th house is a house that's complex, has to do with things that are in the background, in the unknown, the collective unconscious. And so the energy could bring up stuff around you standing strong and feeling powerful around perhaps difficult things that come up for you, or around your desire to to have an inner life, to be introverted, because the 12th house also can have this quality of having to do with, because it has to do with things in the background, it can be that quiet place where we have inner reflection. So the 12th house is complex. If you're a Gemini rising, it's going to have to do with 11th house topics, which has to do with friends and friend groups and organization, things we do creatively with other folks, but also the collective consciousness. That's a complex idea that Carl Jung, as well as some other philosophers, talked about. Just the ways in which certain ideas of who we are come from culture, as opposed to any reality. Culture creates its own reality. That's a little deep, but I'll leave it there. If you're a Cancer rising, 10th house having to do with career, not just career, what we do in the world, our karma, the actions we take out in the world. 10th house is at the top of the chart. That's daytime. It has this quality of being out in the world, right? So that's where you may step into more of a sense of your own authority. If you're if you're a Leo rising, it's going to be ninth house, philosophy, religion, international travel, astrology, lawyers. I have my chart ruler is in the ninth house, and I'm an astrologer, but I used to be a lawyer, so that'll give you a little bit of background. But also higher education. So oftentimes people who have prominent planets in the ninth house, they may have more than one degree or be a professor or something like that, for example. So this, if it's a ninth house, it might have to do with you standing in your own authority around your own philosophy, your own sense of meaning in life, or and also have something to do with, as I said, those other topics, international travel, higher education. If it's if you're a Virgo rising, it'll be fall in your eighth house, which is complex. It's the house of death, but also the house of not just literal death, but ego death, letting go, as well as shared resources, because it's the second house from the seventh house. And so it could be some sort of standing within your own power around how you collaborate with other folks, how you receive resources from other people. If you're a Libra rising, seventh house having to do with one-on-one relationships. That could be business relationships, could be a therapeutic relationship, could be a partnership like a marriage. If you're a Scorpio rising like me, it's sixth house. Sixth house is has to do with powerlessness. That's how I always describe the root of the sixth. So it can have to do with service. It can have to do with the house of the everyday worker, like that Dilbert kind of energy, the energy you're putting into your work. And also can have to do with doctors and healers and things like that because they tend to provide service. The If you're a Sag rising, it's going to be fifth house. So that's children, creativity, pleasure, fun. So something about occupying that space in a courageous way or connecting with people around your own creativity in a solid kind of way. If you're a Capricorn rising, it's going to be your fourth house of home, family, ancestry. It could be literal home. You might, maybe you'll come to some understanding about where you live if you're having, like, I'm going to be moving next year. So it could be coming to some knowing or asserting yourself because that's what Aries likes to do around your decisions in that area of your life, something having to do with home, family, ancestry. Aquarius, it's going to be your third house. Third house is complex as well. A lot of folks think of that as communication and siblings and automobiles. I take it a little deeper and talk about that inner knowing intuition. The moon is in her joy in the third house. So the moon um, is can have to do with our intuition. It's the house of the goddess. And so it's opposite the ninth house. So I always think, okay, the ninth house is about the things we know intellectually, that kind of wisdom. The third house is about the wisdom we gain through everyday experience. So just to deepen that idea of the third house. And then lastly, we have Pisces. If you're a Pisces rising, it's going to be your second house, which has to do with how you bring resources to yourself, what you do to support yourself, your sense of your own value. And again, this could be a powerful moment if you're going through any sort of issues around your sense of your self-worth. This might be a moment where you're like, okay, I'm good. I'm strong. I'm powerful. I can stand confidently in my sense of who I am. And also, it may just be confidence and power and authority around how you make money, right? So, all houses have a range of meanings, and this is for you to self-reflect on to see how this unfolds for you. So, I hope that was helpful. I'm a little energetic today. I had a lot of caffeine. So I hope y'all enjoyed it. If you did, again, if you could like and subscribe, it would be so helpful to me as I try to grow my channel. Feel free to drop questions in the comments section. So I'll see you all soon.